What is up, dudes? My name is Sergio, and welcome to Dude Reviews. So today, we're going to actually get into something that's been lolling around for a little bit. It's Stranger Things, an ongoing Netflix series. This show's been sitting around on Netflix for a while. I know this review might seem a little late. Everybody's been on me about it. My family, my best friend, she was like, I can't believe you haven't seen this yet. It's like you. It's basically everything you like, and especially the score and the music. I guarantee you love it. And guess what? She was right. So finally, I sat down and saw all 8 episodes. Yes, I binged watched it. I kind of feel like you're judging me through the computer and through the camera. Well, guess what? Judge away. I don't care. This show is almost flawless. Yeah, it might have some trips there and here, which I'll get into later. Right out of the gate with the title sequence, oh man, it got me really quick. I love 80s graphics, even if they're made today to replicate what was back then as far as graphics go in the 80s. I love that, and especially the score. It's kind of like a dark wave kind of feel. If you're really into those kind of genres like chill wave, synth pop, pretty much anything that has to do with synthesizers, you'll love this score. And ultimately, I do, of course. It's like the show is kind of centralized around the characters, which is really good. Don't worry, the plot is still good. It's really good, trust me. One of my favorite aspects of the show is that there isn't just one focused character or one main character or one protagonist. It deals with a group of them, and that's something you really don't see a lot of today. Everything's a lot more centralized as far as one character or the protagonist. Yeah, you could say each episode might focus on one character, but essentially the entire season itself deals with all of the characters. It's not just one character, and I love that. Another reason why I feel the show is awesome is because it's like one giant movie split in 8 pieces in one season. It's awesome. It's like one giant movie you get to enjoy for I saw it. It was the whole day. I saw it all day. Yeah. There's so many references that people can relate to. I know I did. Wait, what'd you say? Because I'm a nerd? Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah. There's references to Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, comics, Dungeons and Dragons. There's even a line in the actual show that pulls something from Tolkien's books. Oh man, it was great. It really was. I'm not kidding. I'm being serious right now. If you can figure out that line, 10 points to you. I'm not gonna say what it is. Watch the show. It's so awesome. Even the kids name one of their streets Mirkwood. So let's get into the story. Spoilers, duh. If you don't want to hear about the spoilers that I'm about to get into, I'm not getting into full detail because I still do want you to see the show. See this picture of Dustin? Once you see it again, stop fast forwarding. Like I said before, there's no real main character in this show, but there are clear favorites to some people. There's favorites to me, of course. I'm not gonna lie. Let's start with the kids. There's Lucas, Will, Mike, and Dustin. They're kind of like, I guess, the Goonies of the show. And Dustin is my personal favorite. Might be a lot of people's, but for whatever reason, I can relate to him. A lot. Yeah. Then there's Will's mom, who's played by Winona Ryder. Okay. I have to admit, Winona Ryder does get on my nerves from time to time. In some of the roles that she plays, it feels like I don't know, she might overact a little bit. No offense to anybody that likes Winona Ryder. But in this particular show, she's awesome. She's perfect in that hysterical mother way. I don't know if that has a lot to do with her real personality. Maybe. Then there's Cooper, who's the police chief. He's at first he kind of starts off as your cliche police officer. Well, I don't believe any of this information because blah 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 blah. But you know, whatever. But then later he kind of sways. He kind of sees the facts for what it is, and he's kind of like the driving force of the plot. Then there's Will's brother Jonathan, and then there's Nancy, who's Mike's sister. They kind of go on their own adventure to battle a demon because Nancy loses her best friend, Barbara, to the Demogorgon, or monster, whatever you want to call it. Last but not least, there's Eleven, or Elle, who is the, I guess you could say, kind of superhero or Jedi of the story. She has psychic powers. She's actually pretty badass, and she's essentially one of the biggest plot points of the story itself. Those are the main characters. Now let's get into the story just a little bit. It all starts with the government doing these weird tests on these kids for their own gain, because, you know, the government. They kind of use Elle for their own exploits, and at the time it's 1983, so it's the Soviet Union who they're trying to spy on. And there's this particular mission that they're on with Elle, and they're using a deprivation pool so that she could hone in her powers a little bit more. So they're in this mission, she's by the Soviet Union listening in, but then something else catches her eye. And it's the Demogorgon. It's in this negative space. It's kind of, I feel it's like, I guess you could say it's purgatory, but personally I'm gonna call it an alternate dimension because it's sci-fi fantasy. It's kind of cooler, I guess, because what happens when Elle meets the Demogorgon, she comes into contact with it, and when she does that, it kind of bridges the gap between the alternate dimension. It kind of creates a bridge between the alternate dimension and our world. So it turns out the Demogorgon smells blood like a shark and goes after whatever blood's coming out of. Like a shark. Okay, this is nuts. I feel like the show was indirectly made for me. I have silicophobia. If you don't know what that is, Google it. So the government decides to cover the disappearance of Will with his death. So they kind of plant this body in the water that kind of looked like Will, but not really. It was like this body of water. It was like in a pond. So Officer Cooper does not buy it. Later he finds out by cutting into the body. This scene is it's incredible, and it's got you at the edge of your seat because you're like, what's going on? It's either he's gonna rip open this kid and blood and guts is gonna splat over his face, or something else is gonna happen. So he cuts open this kid. You don't think he's gonna do it, but he actually does it, and it's actually stuffing like a stuffed animal, and the plot continues. He kind of sneaks in really cleverly, by the way, and it wasn't like designed like Mission Impossible or anything like that. It kind of happened by accident, and he's in there and he sees the portal that was created by Elle. But then the government captures him, puts him in his house, makes it seem like he was just drunk last night or something. He knows exactly what happens. He searches through his house for a bug, and he finds the bug. It's in his light fixture in the ceiling. He finds it, and now he believes Joyce, who all along thought that her kid wasn't dead, that she heard his voices. Nobody believed her, and he's the first character to actually believe Joyce after going through this entire episode of what he did. So in the end, the characters actually join forces. What? You thought I was gonna spoil more of the story, get into mass detail? No way, dude. It's 8 episodes. Go watch it. So they join forces. So the kids, excluding Will, of course, because he got captured by the Demogorgon, befriend Elle, and they become really good friends with her. They protect her. Mike kind of hoards her in his basement, feeds her Eggos. She loves Eggos, and that's the biggest product placement. If you love Eggos, Eggos was a big part of my childhood. Another reference. So finally, the characters of this entire show, Officer Cooper, Joyce, then you got the kids, and then you have the kids' siblings, Nancy and Jonathan. So what the group does, they all get together at the high school or school, and they recreate the deprivation pool so that they know where to go once they're in this alternate universe. So what happens? They find Will, they're able to bring him back, and while this is going on, the Demogorgon smells the blood of a bunch of agents that Elle has killed. So the Demogorgon essentially goes after the kids, kills some of the protagonists' agents. So what Eleven does is completely sacrifice herself for the love of her newfound friends. She destroys the demon, but in turn she has to kind of destroy herself, as much power as she's using to destroy the Demogorgon. Why did I say demon? Same difference. And of course, there's a cliffhanger at the end that's gonna leave you wanting more for season 2. It'll happen, trust me. Now, let's get into the good. The show is immaculate, very character driven. The plot is mysterious and kind of out of this world. I guess you can say that the premise has been done before, but in its own right, it's something that's fresh that we're not really getting right now. At least to me, it doesn't feel that way. Everything just works for this show. From the awesome score, to the cinematography, to the camera work. You could tell the director was giving it his all, or both of them, because it's the Duffer Brothers. Even the actors, they look like they loved what they were doing. They were really enjoying what they did. And you can kind of see it flow through the actor whenever they're giving a poor performance, or they really don't care if they're there. It's just everything as a whole. Now the bad. Okay, it's hard to say something is perfect. Is this show perfect? No. To be fair, for something to be perfect, I feel like it has to be a biased opinion. The only thing that stood out for me that was like, oh, it was some of the CGI. It can get wonky at times, like the Demogorgon in particular. If the Demogorgon is by itself, stagnant, static, not doing anything, it looks great. But when it starts interacting with real world objects or real characters, yeah, it gets wonky. But it's okay. Since the show was really successful, I'm sure they have a bigger budget this time around, and hopefully they could get a little better CGI than they had before and kind of clean it up. And the addicting. Honestly, the score is what really grabbed a hold of me for this show. From the title sequence to everything in between. Even the music that was featured in the show, not necessarily the score, it just worked. And those references, they're like porn for the nerdgasm. If you're into comics, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Dungeons and Dragons, you'll get pretty giddy about all the references in this entire show. I know I did. Do I recommend this for anyone that hasn't seen it? Yes. Even though I feel more than half of you have already seen this show. Put it this way, I'm not a big show fan. I don't subscribe to a bunch of shows that are on Netflix or what have you. There's a very select, short list I have of shows that I like a lot and I can rewatch again. The rewatchability for shows is big for me. If I can go back and rewatch them again later, that means it's a good show for me. And I'm not going to review a bunch of shows on here because I'm more about movies. If I took the time to sit here and talk to you guys about a show, that means it's a damn good show. Now get out of here. Go watch the show already. If you haven't, go watch it. I totally recommend it. Can't wait to review another one with you guys. I love popcorn. If you don't, what is wrong with you? My name is Sergio. Catch you later, dudes.